Alright everyone, today's video is PC Backstory Guide. And I'm making this video because I see a lot of videos from other creators on the topic of how to make a good backstory, and a lot of it is addressed to the DM, which I don't really understand because the burden of backstory should be placed on the PC for at least 75% of it. And PCs, well, y'all don't often know what to put in. I see bad backstories all the time with a lot of effort, and I see backstories with no effort, and I see good backstories. So here's how to make a good backstory for a PC. So the first question for me was, what do I need in my backstory? And I would say like a dozen NPCs is the first thing you should have. And this is your mom and dad, your brothers and sisters, your extended family. But more than that, it's everyone that you grew up with. So it's your friends and your enemies, your mentors. Let's say you trained with the local smith, and that's where you got your proficiency in the smithing skill, or your father was friends with the Lord's commander of swords, and that's how you learn to become proficient with fighting, right? So there's a few examples of NPCs that you could have. And I had one character in one of my games. His name was Argo, and he had an NPC named Father Cain, and so it was really good, and all he really had to do for me was give me a few sentences on Father Cain. So, name, Father Cain. Occupation was a battle priest, right? He worked with the army, and it was like a cleric, providing support roles to the men in battle. The third and fourth line are relational. So, how did you feel about this NPC? In the case of Father Cain, Argo really liked him. He was something like a father figure. And then, how did the NPC feel about you? And Father Cain returned the affection. And how did you guys last meet? So what was the circumstances of your last meeting? And Argo and Father Cain, their last meeting was amicable. They said goodbye basically as Father Cain went off to war, and Argo also went off to a different front. So that was how they last saw each other. And then they had a reunion. And the reason the NPCs are so important players is because the more you give your dungeon master, the more easily he can work them into the game, the more plot points he has to work off of, and the more fun you have. Because when I brought Father Cain in, Argo really liked it. He thought it was great. He thought it was fun. So you should have at least a dozen NPCs with just those 5 things for your dungeon master. And think about them more over time, that sort of thing. Like if it's Father Cain and he taught you to be a cleric, then have a lot about him. Or if it's Sir Redfolk who taught you how to be a rogue, have a lot more about him. But all that you have to have is those 5 things, and a DM can work with that, right? That's pretty good. That's what I really want. So some other things are failures and successes, victories and defeats, problems and boons. So for the first one, victories and successes, you can think of this in the terms of like a battle, if you wish to. Battles I've won, battles I've lost, or not maybe a literal battlefield battle, but like I struggled to beat poverty and I did, or I argued with myself about what was the right choice and I eventually made one. Those are kinds of battles that you can win and lose. Victories and defeats are, I just said that. Failures and successes. Sorry guys, high-speed production here. Failures and successes are things like I was able to win the archery tournament in my town and get enough gold for my family to make it through a winter. A failure could be I never stood up to my grade school bully, and as such my position in life was greatly diminished. Right, those are two successes and failures. So we've covered victories and defeats, successes and failures. Now the really important one for a DM, for a PC to make for the DM, is your problems and your boons. So some problems could be like, I had a character, his name was Kelleran, and he had killed a man, and then he was on the run from investigators. So that was a problem that the DM was able to work with, and the character had. It made it more fun because there were stakes. There were stakes in the game. A boon could be like you found a wounded harbor. He was dying, and you saved him. And then now, if you ever see him again, he owes you a lot. So you want your victories and your defeats, you want your successes and your failures, and you want your problems and your boons, because that's all stuff the DM can work with. And this is all this backstory stuff is not just to give you a better sense of your character, but it's to give the DM more things to work with. Because if you just take 4 random people and their backstories are totally not connected, they don't have really much stuff in the way of backstory and just throw them into Lost Mine, like, yeah, they'll have fun, but for the purpose of enriching the game, they might as well not even have had backstories. Might as well have just been you, your avatar, right? For all of that backstory, it might as well just be a character name. But if you have a backstory like this and you have a DM who weaves it into the campaign, it just enriches it so much. It makes the game so much more fun. So that's why you should have a good backstory, and that's why you should have those things that I listed before. And then the next set of this is little exercises you can do with yourself to get a better feel for your character. So a list of the special equipment that you have. Let's say that you're a bard and you have a lute, but it's not just regular lute. It's painted red and it's styled to look vaguely like a dragon. And then out of the head where you tune the strings, you could, with special tools, you could blow fire, right? So that's a unique equipment that your character has. And things like this, A, make you more connected to your character, B, make it more meaningful to you, and C, show the DM that you really care, and they'll, be nicer to your character. But, this unique equipment is, I think, an essential part of the background, honestly, because part of the game is the fun stuff that we get, and if we can secure some of that in the backstory, A, that's fun, B, it's things that we want, and C, it enriches the game and enriches the backstory. So those are some reasons why you should have your unique items. For instance, I had a dwarven character. He was an abjuration wizard named the Tankard, and his family were wealthy merchants. You can think like proto-bankers. And so his spell book was the family ledger, right? So the DM loved it. Banking, ledgers, abjuration, all that good stuff. And whenever he cast counterspell, he would say transaction denied, right? He would say things like that. And then whenever he killed someone, he would say insufficient funds, right? Things like that. So, it just gave the character more personality, and the DM liked it a lot. So you should have specialized equipment, special and unique equipment that only your character has. And you should, ask the DM, like, hey, is this cool? And 9 times out of 10, let's say 95 times out of 100, they'll say yes. So then there's some questions you got to also ask yourself, right? Is my character merciful? Is my character heroic? Is my character angry? Is my character happy? All these things kind of help you get into character to play the game. And the more you get a feel for your character, the more you can actually play a role. Because a lot of this game, we're acting, right? A lot of the fun of the game comes from playing these various roles. And the more that you have in your backstory about who your character is and how they would feel in certain situations, the more you can play a role, right? And the more you can have some fun with that. So you should ask yourself, am I merciful? Am I heroic? Am I angry? Am I hopeful? Am I optimistic? Am I kind of a Debbie Downer? Am I very grim? Am I very dour? All these kind of questions are very good to ask yourself. And then you could also ask yourself, what would I do in certain situations? Like if there was someone who'd been caught stealing, but it was to feed his family, like how would I feel about that? You should ask yourself some of the more famous moral questions, like, is this wrong? Is this right? Just the classic dilemmas. Ask yourself all of those. And then the more scenarios you put yourself in, the more questions you ask yourself, the more you'll get a feel for your character, and the easier it will be to play them, right? So here's a pro tip before I leave. Don't kill your family, all right? As a DM, the thing that I hate most is orphans and only children, okay? Because if you're an orphan and you have no siblings, that just reeks to me of I don't care enough or I don't know enough to make my background. If you don't know enough, that's fine. That can be solved. If you don't care enough, can't be solved, then I'm not going to play with you. If you don't care enough about your character, I'm not going to play with you. Now, I'm not saying if you ever are an orphan or have no siblings, I'm not going to play with you. What I am saying is if you don't have a compelling reason for that, I'm not going to play with you. And if you don't have someone who raised you, because there is someone who raised you, there's no one who goes up without being raised at all, and in which case they're usually, pretty crazy, pretty violent people if they have not had any kind of raising whatsoever. So there's someone who raised you, someone who fills a motherly or a fatherly role, and I just need that, right? Like if you're Batman and your parents died, Alfred raised you, right? So you could play that situation. My parents were killed, but Alfred is like a father to me, and then that gives me a plot point of, okay, well, he's hunting down the people who killed his family, and he can talk to Alfred, so that's perfect, right? So there's a pro tip for you. Good luck, goodbye, and have fun in your games.